Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another exciting episode of Super-Fanta-Fi. Basically, a show where I talk about all the supernatural fantasy slash sci-fi shows that I like and am currently watching. For this episode, I'm going to talk about this week's episode of Teen Wolf as well as the Shannara Chronicles. Starting with Teen Wolf first, we're going to talk about the fact is we learned a little bit more about the Beast. Specifically, the person who beat the Beast originally, named Marie Jean, which was pretty awesome because it was very nice to see Crystal Reed back in the show, even if it is just for one episode. It's still nice to have her back. But she was the lady who originally killed the Beast back in the mid to late 1700s. And it turns out that the Beast back in the day, the original Beast, the man behind the Beast, was actually Marie Jean's brother Sebastian. He had drunk water from the footprint of a wolf. Hence how he became a beast in the first place. Which is very interesting because other than this show, there's only been one other thing I've ever seen that has referenced becoming a werewolf like that, and that's Hemlock Grove. So it's kind of interesting to see that mythology brought into another show. So I was like, oh yeah, that's interesting, and it's a very interesting way for him to become a werewolf because I don't think they've never shown that anywhere else in this show, have they? Like anyone becoming a werewolf like that? Because everywhere else it's like, oh, you become a werewolf by like a bite. So it's like it's never been shown other methods of becoming a werewolf. Granted, you know what I mean. Aside from the whole chimera experiments, you can become a werewolf that way, but you know. Because basically this entire story we're hearing about Marie Jean and her brother is being told by the Argents, specifically Gerard, and they're specifically telling this to Lydia because they believe Lydia being a possible key to beating the Beast, because they themselves, the Argents, are descended from Marie Jean, basically by marriage, because the man that she married, as well as the man who helped her kill the Beast in the first place, was a distant ancestor, was an Argent himself. So that story's kind of been passed down from generations. And a very incredible thing, I just thought was fascinating, is the fact is that they wiped the Beast away from history. That's why a constant thing has been about the Beast is that the Beast is trying to remember who he was, because it's been so long, and the Beast has no reference to remembering who he was, because Marie Jean and everyone back then made sure to wipe the Beast from history so that no one would ever remember his name as Sebastian. They will always know him as the Beast, and they will never remember his true name. So any documents or any paperwork, anything that has Sebastian's name or reference Sebastian in any way, everything was burnt and destroyed. So that was just I don't know. I like that. I thought that was fascinating to be able to legitimately erase someone from history. And while this whole story is going down, you have Parrish possibly leaving Beacon Hills because he feels like even if he is strong enough to take down the Beast, him clashing with the Beast is what's going to lead to a lot of people getting killed, and he doesn't want that. He just hopes, he feels like the only way he can make sure people live is if he leaves, because him and the Beast clashing will lead to a lot of people dying, especially if he's not strong, and especially if he gives in to the Hellhound, or as we know is Cerberus. If he gives in to Cerberus, that means a lot of people will probably die too, because Cerberus won't worry about holding back to protect people. Cerberus will simply want to just cut through anyone that might get in his way of killing the Beast. So, and you also have Lydia. One of the last times you see Lydia in the episodes, it's her chasing after him. So, And then, all while Liddy was hearing the story about the Beast and Marie Jean, we are at the school. Like, people are freaking out, running all over the place because of the Beast, and it's like just stalking the school, which reminds me heavily of season one when you had Peter like stalking the hallways, and it like his big burly wolf form. So that's what it kind of reminded me. It added a lot of tension to everything because you saw Liam and Scott get really messed up. First, you see Liam being dragged into school by Styles and Hayden, and then uh Liam wasn't really healing right, so Hayden kisses him and does that kind of werewolf thing where they can draw away a person's pain. Which has that ever been referenced? What exactly Hayden is? I'm not remembering that correctly. Like, I know she's obviously a chimera, but I don't think they've ever really specified what kind of chimera she is. I'm guessing she's a werewolf since she's able to do that. I've never really seen too many signs of, like, we've seen her have abilities like a werewolf, like um strength and speed, but it's like, other than that, I don't know. Like, she's never shown any werewolf characteristics, not unless I'm remembering incorrectly. I don't think you've ever really found out like exactly what the other chimeras are either. I mean, granted, there's a girl Tracy. We all know she's a Kanema, but other than that, I don't think it's really been discussed what they are. But I'm thinking she must be a werewolf for her to have that power. Not unless other supernatural creatures have that too. But I don't think it's really shown that, like, oh yeah, they definitely have that power. Something interesting I never really thought about till just now is, didn't see Kira this entire episode. So I'm guessing she was just kind of in the background trying to like just fix herself. I mean, because she did kind of like lose control last episode. So, but basically, you had Scott and the Beast going toe to toe. Like, the Beast was messing him up bad, but he still kept getting up and fighting it off. I mean, because that was Scott doing what Scott normally does, and that's trying to protect people. Because you see, like, they're in the library, he's telling everybody to get to a higher place and hide. He's taking on a Beast, and it's messing him up. Lucky for him, cavalry showed up just in time so that the Beast couldn't kill him. Beast ended up jumping out the window, and he gets asked, like, yo, what made you actually think you could actually take on a Beast? He's like, I didn't actually think I could win. That wasn't the point. I have it sent, though. So Scott ends up going outside, and they end up going, he ends up following the scent. He ends up going to the back of a car, and he finds shoes with blood on the bottoms of them. And they close the trunk, and Mason's standing there. He's like, yo, Scott, Liam, what are you doing in my car? And Scott's like, it's you. And Mason's like, well, what do you mean? Yeah, Mason is the freaking Beast. Or at the very least, he is possibly the Beast. Which, it crossed my mind, possibly Mason being the Beast, but I didn't want it to be true. Because it's like, he's the one that came up with the whole theory about, okay, like, what the Dread Doctors were going to do at the lacrosse game to summon the Beast. Like, how they've been summoning the Beast with those, emitting that certain frequency to activate the Beast. He's the one that, like, kind of helped figure that out. So it's like, I don't know. It never crossed my mind. But, I mean, granted, a lot of times the Beast is around, Mason isn't around. So, but this whole thing could be like something else entirely. Maybe it could be a fake out. It could be like, oh, Mason's totally the Beast when he actually isn't. So, but we won't know until the next episode, because we had isn't his name Corey, the Chimera boy who can kind of has that camouflaging ability. You see him grab onto Mason and he dashes away. So we'll just have to see next episode, I suppose. And now we're moving on to the Shannara Chronicles, where we have Eritrea, Will, and Amberly finally making it to Safehold. There at Safehold, they find this like specific symbol, a symbol that's appeared that was recently pointed out to be on Eritrea's back. And it kind of gets the group wondering, like, what is Eritrea's connection to this place? Like, what does this symbol on her back have to do with this all? And, she kind of has, like, she kind of, like, enters a state of, like, unconsciousness. Like, it's like her eyes, like, turn white. And she kind of remembers that guy that she had met last episode who had grabbed her. It's like her body is the map and her blood is the key. And then that kept like going through her head. She passed out for a quick second but woke up. And then all of a sudden these markings started traveling all across her arm, which kind of looked like pretty badass. It looked like a map on her arm. But she couldn't really explain it, but it felt like something was drawing her like deeper into Safehold. Like she could feel it leading her somewhere. And all the time while this is happening, we go back to the Elf Kingdom, and we have Anders dealing with kind of the backlash of last episode where he had promised the throne to that council member. Her name's Kel, and she's kind of like, "Oh, how dare you embarrass me," which is like she's tripping about it, and she's like, "I'm not going to give you my support. You know, you're not a worthy king. You're the only royal family member we have left. That's all. You got the throne because you're the only royal member left. That's all. Not because you're qualified." I mean, which it's like, why is she tripping about this? She's tripping about like all she wants is the power, the prestige, and the position. It's like, because the druid had said previously, like during the war, what, like 30 years ago, she hid behind like the castle walls, like she shriveled, like she hid while others fought. The king himself had fought in the battles um before, and while she just hid in the castle hiding. I think her and a couple others. So it's like she's putting up this bravado like she'll be the great leader, but it's like you didn't do nothing then, you're not going to do anything now. You just want the power. And it's like, is now really the time to be trying to make a power play? I mean, the demons are waging war against you. They plan to wipe you out as well as the other four lands. Like, wipe everyone out, and you're worried about power? You're tripping over power now? Really? And she acts upon that later on in the episode, where she actually kind of gets the other council members as well as some of the knights to kind of back her, and they arrest Anders. But he had sent his I don't remember her name. She's the woman that's always by his side. She was her and Anders had a relationship before. Then she was with his brother. He sent her to the gnomes, sending like a message asking them for help. And remember, like, him and the gnomes are actually on good terms now because of him setting free that leader of the gnomes. I know, I'm sorry. I'm terrible with names. I forget names all the time. I've said that in videos before. I've said that stuff before. Nevertheless, but the gnomes showed up, and with their numbers, they prove, to those who had backed Kale, Anders being able to have the gnomes who have amassed an army of like 5,000 ready to go at Anders' command, because he was able to show them that, like, he was able to convince the gnomes to fight with them. The others were like, you know what, we submit to you, your majesty, and please forgive us. Also in the episode we have I think his name is Bandis, who the seer, the boy who is being prepped to become the next druid. We have him kind of struggling with the Dagdamore, kind of ever since the Dagdamore got a hold of his soul a couple episodes back. He just can't seem to be 100% in control of himself. Like, he's always got the Dagdamore in his head telling him to do this and to do that, and it's kind of too much for him to handle. But the druid is trying his best to keep him on the right path so that he isn't consumed by the darkness. And now back to our three heroes in Safehold. They find their way to the place that Amberly had seen in her vision, and they are suddenly greeted with the guardians of the Bloodfire, and they start messing with Eritrea Wills and Amberly's head, filling them with all their flooding their heads with their fears and doubts and using it against them, and it causes Eritrea and Amberly to kind of get pissed at each other, and they kind of go at it, and Will kind of gets in the middle of it and accidentally cuts Amberly, and she starts bleeding, and the device that's nearby, like her blood starts floating from her hand and starts heading towards the device, and then Eritrea's like, oh, I get it. My blood is the key. So she like stabs her hand on the top of it. It was just like, ugh, made me cringe a little bit, especially when all that blood started pouring out. I was like, which in the back of my mind, I'm like, is it okay for that much blood to be pouring from your body? Like, that looks like a tremendous amount of blood. This is going to like drain you dry, isn't it? Which, what happens at the end of the episode is like, it makes me agree with that. But it ends up opening up a pathway, like a blazing like pillar of fire appears, and Will uses the stones to kind of end up destroying the two guardians. Amberly goes into the passageway, the flaming pillar, and then Eritrea kind of passes out, and her hand gets removed from the device, and it shuts down. Amberly disappearing with it, and Will's calling out to Amberly. He's like, Eritrea, we gotta open it back up. But he doesn't get a response. He goes over, checks on Eritrea. She's not moving. He feels her neck, and she's not breathing. And he's kind of panicking a little bit. It's like he just lost like Amberly. He can't lose her too. It's like it can't be happening. And so at the very end of the episode, we see the final leaf on the elves falling, and the elves as well as the gnomes are seeing that final leaf fall, and then we see the Dragonborn and his army amassing. It's like, now that the elves' final leaf has fallen, I am back at full power. It's time to wipe them all out. This land will be paved with elven blood. So I can only assume that next episode the war begins, and it's just, hopefully we find out what happened to Amberly, and hopefully Eritrea isn't dead, because that would suck. I get the feeling maybe Will be able to use his magic to bring her back, because at the beginning he was told that his magic could have healed his mom if he had known about it at that time. So maybe he'll use the stones. It'll probably come at a heavy cost, because magic always has a cost, right? So it's probably going to come at a heavy cost, but I feel like maybe he'll be able to use his magic to bring Eritrea back. But like I said, won't know till next episode. But that's about it for this. So until the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.